It is no secret, by the way, that other than that book, when it comes to books, I love the romance genre. So I jumped on a chance to talk with Emily Calkins from the King County Library System and get her picks for new romance reads. And we started with a book called The X Talk.
So it's set at a Seattle public radio station, a fictional Seattle public radio station. The heroine is Shay Goldstein. She's worked at the station as a producer for 10 years, and she has this new work rival who's kind of like a hotshot young reporter named Dominic. Oh. So they get paired together to host a podcast for the station that's about dating, and it's called The X Talk. So there's this gimmick that they theoretically are exes who are hosting the show together, but they're not actually exes. They've never dated. They sort of have this competitive side to them. But they start spending all this time together and they end up having to fake having had a relationship. So what happens when you are actually falling in love with someone, but you're supposed to be broken up with them?
Oh, that is so cute. I love it. And I do love any, story based in Seattle. And oddly enough, I find a lot of fictional stories end up here because it's such a great city. What about Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall?
So this is another fake relationship, which is just one of my favorite things in a romance. This is about Luke. He's kind of a C-list celebrity. His dad's a rock star. And so Luke has this reputation in the tabloids for partying hard. But it starts to become a problem and it's threatening his job. And so he decides he needs a fake boyfriend to right his reputation. So his friends set him up with Oliver, who's this straight-laced lawyer who seems like he's going to be all wrong for him, but it's sort of a classic opposites attract situation, and they end up being just right for each other. And this one is so sweet, and it's so funny. It's like a laugh out loud, read the jokes to your partner from the couch kind of thing. It's definitely a staff favorite at the library right now.
I very much enjoy a romance with a whole lot of comedy. Those are the best. The Care and Feeding of Waspish Widows. What's this one about?
Yeah, so this is a historical romance. And I think a lot of times when we think historical, we think like dukes and ladies. But this is actually set kind of in the working class in Regency, England. It's about a widow who owns a printing business. And she goes back into the print shop one day and finds that a hive of bees has started to build in her printing plates. So she needs the local bee expert to help her out. So the bee expert is Penelope Flood, and she comes over and takes care of the bees. And these women form this friendship that evolves into something new. And I really like this one because Olivia Waite, who's the author, does such a great job of building in all of these interesting historical details about what life was like and what these jobs were like. And we also don't get a ton of queer relationships in romance, and especially not older women. So these are women in their 40s who've kind of already had lives, and it's just a really lovely story.
I was just going to say that it seems rare that we would have a story about these two women at that time period. Did they talk about the difficulties of having a relationship at that time?
Yeah, a little bit. And, one of the things that I think is really core to romance is there's sort of a fantasy element to it. So you're going to get a happy ever after. Yes. And they do address that, but it is also sort of like, of course they're going to get a happy ever after. That's what we're here for.
I know. That is one of the best parts of reading any sort of, any sort of romance fantasy book is that, if there's going to be a sequel, there better be a happy ending.
Exactly.
The Duke Who Didn't.
So this is by Courtney Milan. Milan is one of my all-time favorites, and this is a great one for readers who are familiar with her already, but also for readers who are maybe new to her. This is set in a little village. It's about Chloe Fong. She and her father came to England when she was a child, and she's lived her whole life in this village, Wedgford, but she has plans for her future. And they don't include Jeremy Lynn, who's come to Wedgford every year for the annual festival. He's kind of disguised himself as like a middle-class boy. Uh-huh. And over the course of all these visits, he's fallen for Chloe and he wants to marry her, but he can't marry her unless he tells her who he is. And he is actually the Duke of Wedgford. Oh. Yes, so he has this big secret and it's very flirty and it's very fun. Milan is just the best at creating these wonderful characters that you really want to root for. And there's not historically a ton of diversity in Regency romances, so it's fun to have these characters who both have Chinese heritage and see that kind of woven in.
That is wonderful. The next book is one of my favorite genres, Big Bad Wolf, paranormal romance. That is my thing. That is my currency. Tell me about this book I've never heard of.
So I picked this one for you because I heard you liked paranormal. It's about a woman who's a criminal defense lawyer. Her name is Neha, and she is assigned to this guy named Joe Peluso. He's a shapeshifter, and he's been accused of killing 6 Russian mobsters. And he fesses up to it. He's like, yeah, I did it. But she still has to figure out a way to kind of defend him. So they're heading into court for his trial, and the court is attacked, and they end up on the run together, kind of searching for safety, and they're trying to ignore their growing attraction. They end up connected with this organization called the Third Shift, which protects shifters and vampires and all of these other supernatural beings in a world where politicians aren't necessarily friendly to them. So there's like some political themes. It's got this great steamy romance. It has a fantastic cast of secondary characters, and it's the first in a series. So hopefully there'll be lots more to come.
Ah, l'amour. All right. Well,